Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You amazing, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. You're looking amazing. You are amazing. Thank you for being here, as this is video 3 of 3 today. 3 of 3. It's Thursday. I spent most of the day thinking it was Friday. I think I was actually having conversations with people in comments who also thought it was Thursday. For Friday. Friday. Yeah, it's Thursday. Anyway, let's get straight into the meat and potatoes as we head down conspiracy theory alley in the Jay Slater case. Because look, it's hard not to. It's hard not to, and I'll tell you why. Because let's look at what we've been told, right? Because in order to contemplate whether there is a potential for a conspiracy theory to be in any way potentially factual, we have to ascertain whether the story that we're being told is the most likely story. So the story is Jay Slater comes from the UK, goes to Tenerife, first trip without his parents, with his friends, and they go to a rave, go to a 3-day rave event at the NRG festival. Now, in this evening, he gets to a point where he's had too much. Getting high on his own supply, perhaps. Who knows? He's a teenager. And that doesn't make him evil, just makes him a teenager well involved in a specific scene, and one that many of us are all too familiar with. So again, it don't make you an evil person. It just means that you are more susceptible to problems that could mean that you could come to harm under your own volition still, or you're hooked up with people who could potentially mean that you come to harm. So he goes this right. He gets to the point where someone's offering him water. That's what I've been told. He was a mess. He weren't well. He was being given water. He apparently left the NRG festival and he goes to another venue afterwards. And this is apparently where he's then away from his friends. He's not with them. They've gone. But he hooks up with 2 other individuals who are men. So Jay Slater's 19-year-old boy. These are 2 men, adults in their 30s. And these men just happen to have criminal pasts. One of them specifically was jailed for a few years for masterminding, and I use that term loosely because I look at the person and look at the word mastermind and they don't really gel, but ultimately that's probably why he got caught. But yeah, he got caught. He was a trafficker. He was getting stuff from London over to Wales, had his door kicked in, and we've heard it. We've heard the stories. You've heard it. If you're following the Jay Slater case, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You know what happened. And then we find ourselves to present day. So Jay Slater ends up with these people. And apparently the story is that Jay Slater wanted to continue partying. He wanted to continue partying. He didn't get invited. He invited himself as a 19-year-old boy. He invited himself back to 2 30-odd-year-old blokes' property in the arse end of nowhere. And then on the way, so they stop at a shop or something and grab a drink. And he ends up back at this place. And when he's at this place, he takes a picture. It's not like a selfie, it's almost like an anti-selfie. It's not of himself, it's of what he's looking at, which seems to be steps. And he just happens to catch his cigarette in his hand. And that's the last picture that he takes. Last one and only one, it would appear. And there are some issues with this picture. Some people have pointed out that this picture also looks to be part of a story. If you look at the screenshot, there's some story segments to it, and that looks like that is going to go on to another picture. Whether it's the same picture just running through the entire story, I don't know. We'll never know. We've also heard other things that are problematic with respect to Jay Slater's phone being wiped. Was his phone wiped? That is massively important, but we also have to conclude that if his phone was indeed wiped, then that is indicative of nefarious activities, and you would hope that that would get looked into. But we, Joe Public, don't know if that's true. We don't know if that's a fact. But anyway, so he gets to this property, and where the story kind of, half of it is he wanted to continue partying. Then it seems that Rocky he was asleep in the car. Bullwinkle was driving, and when they got back, there's this issue where you're thinking to yourself, so Rocky was asleep in the car, so did they wake him up? And then he wakes up then and goes into the house. But then there's this story about Jay Slater asking for a phone charger, and he's got to go in the room of the person who was apparently sleeping. So there was Rocky carried into the house. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but he asked for a phone charger. He was offered a phone charger, and then we've got this. We don't know if they had the right phone charger. All we know is apparently Jay's phone didn't get charged. And there's a period of approximately 2 hours here from when he leaves the NRG festival and meets up and heads back to this property in the arse end of nowhere. There's about a 2-hour time frame where then Jay Slater would seemingly decide to leave. He wants to leave this property, right? So he's apparently offered a lift that he's turned down. He queries a bus and is told there is a bus, and a bus that apparently goes every 10 minutes. And there's a road that bus goes on. But Jay Slater decides to ignore that information, or he doesn't understand that information. He's not compos mentis, so he fucks that up. And instead of walking, because he then decides to walk 11 miles, he then decides to walk in completely opposite direction. And he's seen walking in completely opposite direction, which is convenient for somebody who wants to make it look like what is happening to someone is their fault. Which is another part of this story where every single person around Jay Slater, everybody wants to make out like it's Jay's fault. Like even Ayub Kasim, one of the things he specifically says is he doesn't know what was going on in his mind. He doesn't know what was going on in his head. And he turns around and says he came alive and he left here alive, which is a dubious thing to say. But we've heard on the back burner as well that Jay Slater was scared. We've also heard that he potentially had weapons on him. We don't know how true or factual they are, but we do know that we've been told that. And then this is where the conspiracy theorist in me comes out, because I think to myself, right, so at this point, you've then got to ascertain. So Jay Slater then goes off walking. He walks in the wrong direction. Is he compos mentis? Is he not? We don't know. So you have to think, okay, in order to do this route, to walk, if he's completely compos mentis, what is the likelihood that Jay Slater would walk, get into a position where he's gone beyond dangerous and gone into the realms of life threatening, and then further beyond that, and not been able to make a decision that going further in that direction is dangerous and coming back? Because let's not make no bones about it, they're saying that he was about 20 minutes away from where his phone last pinged. So he literally went from being on the phone apparently to dead. They're saying in approximately 20 minutes on the phone, talking. Apparently, because his friends have said that there was nothing really wrong with him. They haven't said that he wasn't compos mentis, so you can only determine from what they have said, Brad and Lucy, is that he was compos mentis, but he still managed to walk himself off a cliff. But then we have an issue with, when was Jay Slater found? Was he found when they said he was found? Or are the rumors true in that he was found earlier? And if that's the case, then what is the probability of Jay Slater being found somewhere and then moved to where he was apparently found? And what would be the benefit in doing that? And the timing as well. There was a timing issue here, in that there was a search team brought in specifically by the family. Now, Jay Slater weren't found by anybody who was employed by the family. He was found by Garda Civil, conveniently, who apparently were doing a search behind everybody else's back without anybody knowing. Now, I've heard a lot of news about the Guardia Civil, and they are not the people who go out on a limb to help people. In fact, I've heard some fucking horror stories about how people have evaded prison in the UK moved over to these areas, they have literally been told that these people are living in this area and specifically told where they are and when they can be found at specific times, and Guardia Civil don't want to get off their arse and do anything about it. But then we're supposed to believe that for a teenage boy who went to a rave, done some stuff, walked himself into the arse end of the back of beyond and fell down a ravine, that Guardia Civil went out of their way to do this search with loads of people helping them without any fucking knowing. There's just something that don't sit right for the conspiracy theorist inside me. And I also have an issue with two other things, and that is that I've got people who are sleuths, proper sleuths, you know what I mean? And they look into things and they can look into things very well. And it would appear that there's a potential for there being another body found with a connection to Morocco that was found in water. Now, were these one and the same? Was that person actually Jay Slater? And was Jay Slater found on this boat route? And is that how they were able to extract fingerprints from Jay Slater's remains? Because, in fact, he was found in water, and water would have preserved fingerprints. Unlike, and I will say, and I have to be fair, we don't know what was at the bottom of that ravine. So, again, we don't know how damaged he was with respect of the elements. All we know is that the family were told they couldn't see him because of the amount of degradation in his body. But then I thought to myself, hold on a second, what if again he was found in water? Because again, that would have slowed down the rate of decomposition, and it would have also raised questions from the family, as they would have potentially been able to ascertain that in fact he was found in water. He wasn't found in the ravine. So how the fuck did he get in the water? And when you then pair two and two together and you think of the boat stories and how Jay could have ended up on a boat, these things would all start to then mesh together. And in fact, Mark Williams Thomas and some of the shit that he was spouting perhaps weren't as shit as it would now seem to be, when you figure in that it would seem that Jay Slater just fell in the ravine. Would Jay Slater, would his body truly have been in a condition where they have been able to extract prints from his body? We don't know that. But what we do know is that Jay Slater was certainly, we were told that that was a prospect. And we was also hearing that he potentially ended up on a boat. And now I now know that there's potentially another body that was found in the water around the Moroccan waters, and we're now looking into that, and we're going to get more information, and when I have it, you'll have it. Was Jay Slater moved? Was he moved from the water into the ravine to make it appear that this was something that happened on his own? And in fact, was the Guardia Civil instrumental in concocting a story that would make up and fit a narrative that this was a lad who didn't succumb to the issues that are virulent on Tenerife's island? And I'm not saying that it's a problem that's not caused or exacerbated by the English. You know, this isn't attack on Tenerife. This is attack on the people within Tenerife. But make no bones about it, they have a massive narcotics problem. And we have a story that don't make sense. But if you start factoring in some of these other things, perhaps it does. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all in the next one.